If you were to add up the total cost of basic necessities in Spain, living in an apartment, transportation, utilities, internet and phone bill, how much would it cost you? Keep watching to find out what you might expect your monthly expenses to be when living in Spain. Let's get right into it. If you're new here, my name is Jonny. I'm originally from the UK, but I've been living and working in Spain for the past 4.5 years. This channel was originally a personal finance channel and then has evolved as the years have gone on. And as someone who comes from a finance background, works in finance for a living, and takes an interest in personal finance, combining that with the fact that I've lived in Spain for the past 4.5 years, I managed to get a pretty good grip on how things work here and what is a reasonable cost of living. By the way, guys, stick around to the end where I'll add up the cost of everything that I talk about through this video so you can see what a typical month of expenses look like. And I've also got a little something for you as well. Now that said, let's get into the details of what life really costs living in Spain. So let's begin with the obvious biggest expense that you'll have if you're not planning on buying a house here, and that's rent. I've got multiple videos doing detailed analyses on the cost of property in Spain, buying versus renting. But in terms of renting, what we're going to do is we're going to pick 5 major cities in Spain. We're going to look at Madrid, Barcelona, Valencia, Alicante, and Malaga. And we're going to take a look at the average price per meter squared, and based on that, work out what an average property might cost in these cities. So starting with Madrid, the capital of Madrid, not the region of Madrid, you're looking at about 19 euros and 81 cents per meter squared of rent. So based on that, a 40 meter squared apartment, which would be probably a small 1-bedroom apartment, a studio maybe, you might expect it to come out at 800 euros, and a 60 meter squared apartment, which might be a 2-bedroom or maybe a small 3-bedroom apartment, might go into 1,200 euros. Now there's a big caveat here, and that is that it is very, very dependent on the area. Now, Madrid has some very, very expensive areas where you can easily expect to pay a lot more than that. Probably a premium of about 1.5 if you're in one of the central districts or one of the wealthy districts like Chamartín, for example. So I would even dare to push those rental prices up further and say that an average apartment in Madrid, again depending on the size, location, could typically cost you between 1,200 euros and 1,600 euros on average per month. These are typically the prices I was seeing as I looked through Spanish property website Idealista. Now let's move to Barcelona, where the story is very similar. Again, a very high rent price per meter squared of about 22 euros and 7 cents. So again, that multiplied by 40 meters squared would be 800 euros a month in rent, and for 60 meters squared it would be 1,100 euros a month. Again, you have some cases in Barcelona where you have very expensive areas where you might expect to pay again a premium, again maybe up to 1,500, 1,600 euro price range. But at the same time in Barcelona there seems to be a much bigger range, again depending on the area. You can find full apartments for maybe 600, 700, 800 euros, but again this is going to depend on the area, it's going to depend on the state of the property, and it's also going to depend on whether the apartment is furnished or not. So keep that in mind when looking in Barcelona. There is a big price range that is probably affecting that average as well that we took. So with that said, for Barcelona, I would say at the lower end of the spectrum, probably expect 700 euros per month in rent, and at the top end, maybe 1,700, 1,800 euros per month. Now, cities like Malaga and Alicante are obviously not as populated. There's not as big of a population as in the biggest cities like Madrid and like Barcelona, but still very popular cities nevertheless. And as they're much smaller cities and they don't have the population size of Madrid and Barcelona, they have much lower prices per meter squared in terms of rent. So in Valencia, you're looking at around 12 euros and 6 cents per meter squared, and in Alicante, around 10 euros and 59 cents per meter squared. And so the typical price range for these two areas, I would say, would be starting at around 450, 500 euros per month, up to maybe 700, 750 euros per month approximately. And if we look on Idealista, we can find properties that meet that criteria and that fall within that price range. Again, like Madrid, like Barcelona, there are some more expensive properties, but you'll see that those properties tend to have been, refurbished, renovated, or brand new properties. So that's why it's important to know exactly what your budget is, what kind of apartment you want to live in, and what you can afford really when you're looking at these kind of areas. And finally, we've got the Malaga province, which is somewhere in between the two extremes of Madrid and Barcelona and Alicante and Valencia. Obviously, Malaga is a very popular tourist region and it attracts a lot of visitors. And it also has some expensive cities within the province like Marbella. So this can be impacting the average in Malaga. Nevertheless, looking at the whole province, you're looking at around 15 euros 11 cents per meter squared is the average rental price there. So that would give you probably between 650 euros and 950 euros average rent per month. And the interesting thing in Malaga as well is obviously you've got the choice of you can rent an apartment within the city or one of the cities in the Malaga province, but you've also got areas in the countryside where you've got, small cabins and small chalet style homes as well, which might fall within that price range. Some of them might be a bit up and above if they're in high demand or popular areas. But there's definitely an interesting range of properties that you can find within what I would say is the typical price range for Malaga. All right, so now that we looked at the cost of renting an apartment, now let's look into some utilities. So this has obviously been a hot topic in Spain over the past few years, particularly with the Iberian exception, because basically in Spain you have two types of electricity tariff. You have the regulated market price, which is based on Europa carbon emissions pricing for a particular day, and you have the free market pricing, which is a fixed price determined by the electricity distributors. Think of this as working as similarly to the way that a fixed rate mortgage and a variable rate mortgage works. So a variable rate mortgage, if interest rates are low, then that can be favorable for you in terms of your payment. Whilst if you've got a fixed mortgage, the rate can be quite high or quite low, but at least you know what you're paying every month. Well, it's kind of the same thing here. If you're on the regulated market, you could pay more, you could pay less, depending on the carbon emission prices in Europa. But at the same time, if you're on the free market, then you know pretty much what your contract price per kilowatt hour is going to be. And that's what I'm on, and it's what most people, at least that I've spoken to in Spain, have for their electricity tariff, the free market. And so to get some prices here, I went to price comparison website quelisto.com, which is a price comparison website for a range of services, utilities in Spain. Now, the cheapest offers on the market that they could find ranged from 43 to 55 euros per month. And that's based on an assumed contracted power of 4.2 kilowatts per hour. That's basically the maximum amount of energy that you can be consuming at any one time, and then an annual consumption of 2,540 kilowatt hours. And they've taken this data based on calculations from the CNMC, which is the Comisión Nacional de los Mercados y Competencia, kind of the market regulator for the energy sector and other sectors, I believe, as well. That consumption, though, works out at about 210 kilowatt hours per month, which is probably what one person might expect to consume. If there's a second person in your house, then sources on the internet would probably suggest that the consumption annually would be between 3,200 and 3,300 kilowatt hours per year. So if we take that consumption into account and then we apply it to the 43.55 euros that we saw for one person with the consumption, so taking that consumption and applying it to the original data from Quelisto, we end up with an average cost per month of between 51 euros and 66 euros per month. That's if it was two people. Keep in mind again that this is the average consumption across Spain and that certain regions might consume more or less. For example, some places in the south of Spain might not consume much heating in the winter because the temperatures are very mild, but may consume a lot of electricity in the summer with air conditioning. Whereas places in the north of Spain, like Asturias, like Galicia, might not spend so much on air conditioning in the summer, but may spend more on heating in the winter. And then you may have places like Madrid where it's a bit of both. You have to spend money on heating in the winter because it gets cold, and you also have to spend money on air conditioning in the summer because it gets warm. So keep that in mind. I'll also very briefly mention gas, as some old properties in Spain still do have gas cookers and gas power for certain appliances. So energy company Total Energies say that the average consumption of gas per year for the average household in Spain is around 7,000 kilowatt hours. That would come out at between 57 and 70 euros per month. Again, that's for two people, so one person will perhaps consume a bit less, so perhaps 5,000 kilowatt hours per year. And that would put their cost at around about the 50 euro mark per month. Water consumption, another important utility, but probably the lowest in terms of cost that you'll see. Data from Rastreador, which is another price comparison website in Spain, finds that the average water bill per month for one person is around €7.60 per month, and then for two people it will be around €15.20 per month. Important to note here that I'm not sure how this takes into account drinking water in different parts of Spain, because there are regions such as Madrid where you can drink the tap water, and other regions such as Catalonia, Andalusia, the Canary Islands, where the tap water is maybe not the best quality for drinking. It's probably not recommended to drink it. So given that this affects a lot of Spain, and there's probably very few autonomous communities where the water is clean and drinkable like that, I would say that, yeah, your water bill will probably be about that in most autonomous communities in Spain. Maybe in Madrid it'll be a little bit higher, but at the same time, unless you choose to buy bottled water from the supermarket, then you'll save a load of money there as well. All right, another important utility that you'll need when you move to Spain is, of course, internet and mobile phone. And the offers in Spain, in my opinion, are starting to get really good, especially given what they were a few years ago. You can now get very, very fast broadband for a very affordable price here. Like if you're getting internet only and you're looking for like a basic speed of like 100 megabytes per second, then from as little as 20 euros, you can find a good deal. And if you want to get higher internet speeds, such as 300, 500 megabytes per second, even 600, then, the cost doesn't go up that significantly. You're coming closer to like 30 euros. So it's still a really good deal and a really good price for high-speed internet. And a lot of the internet providers also offer mobile phone deals as well within the same package as the internet. And that will only boost the price up by about 5 euros in any case. So at the lower end, you're paying about 25 euros. You get in probably a decent internet speed and at least 15 gigabytes of data, which for a lot of people, that's probably enough. But if you are someone that wants more, maybe 30, 50 gigabytes per month, or even unlimited in some cases, then you're only, again, looking at maybe 35 euros at the top end for some of the best price deals. Not everyone wants to have their mobile phone tied in with their internet package though, and that's perfectly fine. There are good pay-as-you-go and contract offers as well. So the cheapest pay-as-you-go offer I saw was 4 euros. And that was with Simyo, which uses Orange's network. And for that price, you get 4 gigabytes of data. But again, it's not that much more expensive if you want more data. You can still pay 9, 10 euros a month and have 12 to 30 gigabytes included within that pay-as-you-go deal. And then again, on the contract side, shouldn't expect to pay more than 10 euros per month if you go in with some of the good deals. And the minimum amount of data you can get with that is 12 gigabytes. You can even get up to unlimited, again, for around 10 euros per month. And I'll put these offers in the video description as well so that you can go and check them out and see that they are for real as well. Okay, now food shopping. So another one that's been a hot topic in Spain because of inflation over the past few years and how it has affected food prices. And this is a very difficult one to price for a number of reasons because everyone has different eating habits. There's different numbers of people in different households. So what I'm going to do here is take the Spain average from research that was done by Fintonic, which is a finance platform here in Spain. And I'm also going to give you the prices of some regular items that you might expect to find at the supermarket here. So this research by Fintonic essentially found that the average annual grocery shop in Spain across all ages and all regions came to about 1,624 euro, which broken down to a monthly cost would come out at about 135 euros per month. And that's up 3% from the 2022 figure, which was 1,577 euros for the whole year, which would have worked out at about 131 euros per month. Now, what they also found is that different age groups spent different amounts of money on their weekly food shop as well. They found that 25 to 34-year-olds spent on average 86 euros per month on groceries, which doesn't seem like a lot, but then you got to keep in mind that a lot of people that age in Spain do still perhaps live at home and they haven't moved out and become independent fully. So they may not be buying full grocery shopping and they may be contributing to a larger shop. We again got 35 to 44-year-olds that spend on average 158 euros per month on grocery shopping. And then the 55 to 65 age group were typically spending 175 euros per month on grocery shopping. Another interesting observation from the study was that the price of groceries per autonomous community can vary slightly as well, with the most expensive autonomous communities being Navarra, Catalonia, and the Valencian region, with Madrid and Andalusia being down at the bottom and Extremadura being the cheapest autonomous community in terms of grocery shopping. Now, the prices of some typical items that you might find at the supermarket. Here I'm looking at the Mercadona website to see what the average cost is. So you can find a litre of milk, depending on the type, between 80 cents and €1.08 per litre. Box of eggs you can typically find from €1.90 to €2.20. Chicken breast will typically cost you around €5.79 per kilogram. A litre of bottled water, depending on the brand, will cost you between 18 cents and 26 cents per litre. Kilogram of bananas will cost you around €1.45. Kilo of rice, €1.35. That's white long grain rice. And a kilo of pasta between €1.20 and €1.58, again, depending on the type of pasta. Okay, moving on to transportation. Let's talk a bit about public transportation to start with, and then we'll talk about running a car. So it's a really good time for people who want to use public transport in Spain at the moment because there is a government decree which is in force until the end of 2024. There's a possibility that it may be extended again because this decree was issued in 2022. It was renewed for 23 and for 24. We'll see if it continues on. Anyways, this decree basically gives a 50% discount on the price of the 10-trip tickets that you'll find in many cities and also on the monthly passes as well. This is the same decree as well that gives you free travel on the suburban Renfe trains and the medium distance trains as well. So what does that mean by city, for example? It means in Madrid, where a Zone A pass for the month costs around €55, you'll pay instead €21.80 for now. And instead of paying €12.20 for a 10-trip ticket, you'll pay €6.10. In Barcelona, a Te Casual 10-trip ticket costs around €12.15, and the unlimited 30-day pass currently costs €21.35. And in Valencia, you have the Mobilitat Suma for one zone, which is normally €35. This is also eligible for the 50% discount. And then a 10-trip ticket in Valencia costs around €8. Alicante also has a monthly transport pass as well for the buses and the tram network, which usually costs €40 but has been brought down to €20 with that discount from the government decree. Now we've covered public transport. Let's talk about if you're running a car. Now I've done a video where I talk in detail about the expected costs of running a car. So what I'm going to focus on here is the average cost per month in fuel only. As with many other countries in Europe, prices of diesel and petrol are high in Spain at the moment, and they fluctuate quite greatly. But at the time of doing this video, 1 litre of diesel costs around €1.70 per litre, and petrol or gasoline for my American viewers costs around €1.80 per litre. CarWow found that on average, cars in Spain do around 11,000 kilometers per year of mileage. So based on that, if we have an efficient diesel car which consumes about 5 litres per 100 kilometers, I'll put the miles to the gallon conversion on the screen for you, for the Americans and the Brits watching. And for the petrol cars, let's say we have a semi-efficient petrol car which consumes 8 litres per 100 kilometers. That would work out at a monthly cost of around €76 for fuel if it was diesel, and around €130 per month if it was a petrol car. And then the final category I'm going to look at here is eating out. And so I'll give you my estimates based on Madrid prices. But remember, this can vary based on what city you're in, based on what restaurant you're going to, what frequency you go to each kind of restaurant, and even what you consider to be an inexpensive restaurant, for example. So I'm going to say that your standard mid-tier restaurant probably in Madrid costs around 16, 17 euros per head at the top end. You know, a fancier restaurant, you're looking at maybe 20, 25 euros per head, possibly a bit more if you take in desserts, drinks, etc. And then the average fast food restaurant, typically between 10 and 12 euros per person, you can find something decent. And so if I ate out once a week, let's say once at a fast food restaurant, twice at a mid-tier restaurant, and once at a fancy restaurant, I would say that comes to about 80, 90 euros per person. But again, that's just me who doesn't eat out too much. And keep in mind that, you know, in Spain, eating out is part of the culture and a lot of people do it quite frequently. That's to say like multiple times a week. So, you know, that could easily be more. So the moment you've all been waiting for, let's add it all up and see what it comes to on a monthly basis. So I'm going to put an Excel up on the screen where everything is there and I'm going to show you what the totals are. So let's take Madrid to start. Let's assume one person, and I'm going to take a big-ish apartment, a modern and renovated one. So let's say that would cost me around 1,800 euros in rent at the top end. We'll play conservative with the electricity, say it's 55 euros per month. No gas consumption, we'll assume all electricity. Water, 760 euros per month. Internet package, 35 euros, assuming I have my mobile phone contract integrated in there and I have a high-speed internet. Then I say food shopping of 135 euros per month, roughly, based on the average from that study. Might be a little bit more. Then let's say I have a monthly pass for the metro and the bus. That's going to cost me 22 euros per month. Because I've got that, I'm going to say that I don't have a car, so I have no car costs here. And then let's take the example that I said before. So it comes to about 85, 90 euros for eating out. So on average per month, assuming no other costs, that would cost me around 2,100 euros per month to live in Madrid. Now, let's move and make it Barcelona and see what it would be in Barcelona. Around 2,333 as the rent price has gone up a little bit as well. So it'll be around 2,300 euros per month as the rent price is a little bit higher than Madrid. Remember, again, this is at the top end, so I can also, you know, let's say I get a classic old apartment in Barcelona. That would bring my cost of living down significantly as well. That would bring it around to 1,700 euros per month. I'm going to change to Valencia. So in Valencia, I can maybe get away with 1,100 euros of rent per month. If I have a biggish apartment, modern, renovated, that would bring me to around 1,400 euros per month in living costs. Alicante, slightly less, 1,300 euros per month. Let's say I want to get an old apartment as well. Then it brings it right down to below 1,000 euros, brings it around to 950 euros per month. Then finally, Malaga, we have 1,700 euros per month, more or less. Again, taking those similar assumptions to the other cities. Let me go back to Madrid and let me add a second person and see how that would change the cost of living. It would bump it up to around 2,300 euros, so about 200 euros extra. That would be taken into account extra grocery shopping and extra consumption for electricity and water. Let's say that my second person has a monthly pass, then, you know, that bumps it up by about 20 euros more as well. Let's go back to Alicante again, and let's say that we don't have a monthly transport pass here. Let's say we have a medium efficiency petrol car and we do, I don't know, let's say 1,000 kilometers per month. Then that brings my cost of living up to 1,400 euros. assuming I have a modern renovated apartment, as I'm spending 150 euros per month on fuel. So there you go, guys. Some examples of what you might expect to pay on a monthly basis in terms of your living costs in Spain. Now, if you want to calculate your specific situation, you want to play around with different scenarios, let's say having a car, having a particular type of apartment, whether to get your internet separate or combined with your phone, then I have some good news for you. And that's that you can download this file from my website, and also members and patrons will be able to download it as well. And not only will you be able to play with those parameters as well, as you saw in the file as well, there are different columns to look at different lengths of stay in Spain as well. So what that would work out if you were staying in Spain for 3 months, for 6 months, or for a full year, for example. So you can work out a full year estimate of what it would cost you to live in Spain. And for those of you that may be earning in a different currency, or your savings are in pounds or dollars or whatever, and that's going to fund your living in Spain, I've also got a section where you can see what that cost in euros works out in your home currency to see if you have enough savings and if it is economically viable for you. And the first 10 people to download it will get a 50% discount on the final price of the calculator. So get over to the website right now, or sign up as a member or as a Patreon, and get access to it and start working out what your cost of living in Spain will be. When you've worked it out, leave a comment and let me know where you're thinking of moving to in Spain and what your approximate cost of living comes out at. And if you enjoyed this video and you want to find out a little bit more about specific topics mentioned in the video, such as buying versus renting a house in Spain and the property market, then you can check out that video. I've also got a video, as I mentioned, on the cost of running a car in Spain, taking into account fuel, insurance, road tax, and a load of other things as well. Till next time, I'll see you on the next one, and let's get this money.